Good evening. Welcome to Truffles and ToutSuite. I'm Ken Frank from Latoke in Napa. I brought a black truffle. With me, Dominic Orsini from Toomey Cellars in Silver Oak. We're going to be cooking dinners and lunches for the Truffle Festival, and we're going to be drinking wine, cooking truffles, entertaining our friends, and talking to you about truffles tonight. Welcome aboard.
Fun time. Yeah, excited to be here. Hello, ToutSuite land. Got a dish that I'm going to prepare for you. I'm preparing the salad that we're going to be serving at the Saturday lunch for the Truffle Festival here in Napa. We'll be doing the lunch that Saturday at Silver Oak Cellars, and I'm going to prepare for you today a little frisee salad with some foraged mushrooms. I like to call them the local trinity of foraged mushrooms. There's a little egg croquette on top. Basically a crispy egg on top that you open it up, and there's a little bit of like an over easy egg yolk that comes out of the egg as well. In addition to a little bit of truffle cheese, some crispy potatoes. I'm excited.
And I'm going to scramble an egg, and I'm going to magically stand it up in the middle of that plate. It's a clever little trick. And it's just really to demonstrate that one of my favorite ways to use truffle is with egg, because when you store eggs with fresh truffle, the amount of truffle flavor that the eggs infuse, they absorb an incredible amount of flavor. After 48 hours, if you crack the egg and you smell the shell, it's like you're shoving the truffle up your nose. It's really amazing. Wow. So we always store truffles with eggs. You just need an airtight container. And just because I could, I brought a white truffle tonight too, because this is that magical time of year when the white truffle season is winding down and the black truffle season is firing up, and I just knew Dominic would want to smell that.
Yeah, love it.
Spoiled.
It's awesome.
So you want to get started with your
I'll get started. Let me tell you a little bit.
Help? You let me know. And
I might put you to work doing some chopping or something here. I got a bunch of ingredients in front of us here. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm just going to kind of go one step at a time, talking about what we have. I first want to talk about the mushrooms that I'm pairing with this salad. Now, to accentuate, I wanted to add a little bit more complexity aromas to the truffles and not just go simple truffle. I got a variety of 3 different locally foraged mushrooms. Now, these mushrooms are foraged here from Northern California area here. I call them the local trinity. Ken, I'm sure you know what all of these are, but I'm going to tell you about each one here. Starting all the way on our right, on your left here, is going to be a yellowfoot mushroom. This mushroom is identified by its yellow stem at the bottom, hence the name, the yellowfoot. We have a hedgehog mushroom here as well, similar to a chanterelle, if you will. However, the gills are a little bit different underneath. In addition, we have a black trumpet right here with the ominous name of also called trumpet of death. But don't worry, it's not going to kill you. It's not toxic. It's got this funny, sexy name that we enjoy calling it from time to time. So basically, the way the dish works is we're going to we saute these 3 mushrooms up. Now, cleaning mushrooms is a common question I get asked. How do you clean the mushrooms? How do you go about it? Now, water is something you want to avoid with mushrooms. They're like sponges, Ken. You put them and submerge them in water. They suck up that water. And then when you try to saute them and you get all the water out, they end up overcooking the mushroom. So what I like to do is I like to go real simple, and I try to use a brush, like a pacer brush like I have here. And you can actually look and inspect each individual mushroom, and you'll be able to see the specks of dirt that are on them. These here that we have right now, these yellow feet are pretty clean, but you can see there's a little speck there, and it can just brush right off, if you will. Let me see if I can kind of give you a little close-up here. You can find some dirt on one here, like this hedgehog here. We'll just take the brush and kind of rub that off. If we find the brush isn't quite working as well, we'll also alternatively go to a towel here, and you can kind of rub off some of the dirt. Occasionally, you'll find some pine needles in foraged mushrooms. Now, some mushrooms, like the black trumpet here, these can be really dirty. And no matter how much brushing and how much rubbing you do, you're not really going to get all of that dirt out of there. What I will usually do with these is I will go and actually wash them. I will submerge them in water. And I'll submerge them in water about 3 times, 3 separate baths in the water, swirl them around, pull them out of that water, discard the water, and then another batch. After the 3rd time, you're getting them pretty clean. But now you're in the situation of a mushroom that's kind of absorbed this water. And typically, the best technique works for if you saute them lightly. And after you saute them, they'll release all their moisture in your sauteing step. And then you can kind of pull those mushrooms out, hold them aside, and just let that water boil or simmer down for you, if you will, till it kind of cooks down to like a syrup. And then just add the mushrooms back in, give it a gentle stir. Now, these are forage mushrooms, not always available at everybody's grocery store, I'm sure. Can't like walk into your typical grocery store and usually see these. So what alternative mushrooms you can use, I highly like to use the oyster mushroom. I find that works great for this dish. The shiitake mushrooms work great as well. Or if you're a simpler mushroom fan, you can kind of go with something as simple as a portobello or a cremini or your white button mushroom. So these are the mushrooms that we're using today for the dish. We've sauteed them up a little bit earlier, and we're going to show you those momentarily. I want to get started on this egg croquette, because this thing's fun. Check it out here. So I'm going to pull all these items over here. We have a few eggs here already breaded and ready to go, but I'm going to show you a technique for breading. This breading technique that I'm about to show you, you can use for eggs, you can use for chicken, you can use for anything that you like to bread, do breaded items with. But I'm going to show you a technique real quick after I talk about this egg. So what I've done is I've taken these eggs here, and this one's cracked a little bit, and you kind of look inside. It's pretty soft inside here. What we've done is we've boiled the eggs for 6 minutes, only 6 minutes. After the 6 minutes, I've taken the egg out, and I put them in a bath of ice water, shocked them, cooled them down very quickly, and then we gently peeled them. I'll show you one real quick how we go about peeling that. Just kind of move this truffle over here. Move some of the wine out of the way. And so we have, organic brown eggs, what I'm using right here, just a light crack like you would any hard-boiled egg. And we'll just kind of get in here and we'll peel it. Now, who's ever gone and kind of tried peeling hard-boiled eggs and you find that just every time you peel it, what comes along with it? The white comes with it. You can't seem to get just the shell off. One of the tricks that I've noticed, I've never really found that perfect trick, that's kind of fail-safe, but I've noticed if the eggs are a little bit older as opposed to fresh eggs, is definitely one way you can find where they'll peel a little bit easier for you, and you can get most of that shell off. So I also like a little bit of running water. A little running water helps kind of get that shell off of there. We're going to hold on. We're going to hold that one right there, and I'm going to show you. This is an egg that I have already peeled, ready to go here. I'm going to show you this breading technique I was mentioning. So a simple technique that I've always liked to use, one of the most frustrating things is when you're trying to bread chicken or some fish, what ends up happening is your fingertips get breaded. And you're like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. So a technique that I usually go by is it's called a wet hand, dry hand method. So you keep one hand wet at all times. Considering the egg here, it's pretty wet from being peeled. So this is going to be my wet hand. And then the flour is dry, obviously, so my right hand is going to be the dry hand. So I'll put the egg into the dry flour, kind of use one hand here. Fight the temptation. Don't put that wet hand in that dry flour. Then you're just going to end up with these big knobs on your fingertips. So, and then dropped in to the egg. Here we go. I got a spoon here. This helps a little bit. However, I have that wet hand like I talked about. We're simply going to go inside there, pull it out of the egg with the wet hand, and then drop it into the dry ingredients again. Going back to this dry hand, this technique works good. And now I've gone and been able to bread the egg, and my fingertips aren't that bad. They're pretty much I can go through and do multiple eggs afterwards. And we're going to set that aside right there. So remember that. Wet hand, dry hand. You don't end up breading all your fingertips. You don't make big knobs. And then you're washing your hands constantly trying to prepare. So any questions so far? I could be going to Russell, anything out there? Anybody in our... Oh, thank you. So the breadcrumbs here, now you can use any breadcrumb you like with this recipe. If you're a big fan of Italian breadcrumbs, or panko is a big popular one, I like to take breadsticks, because breadsticks are grissini, Italian grissini. They have a lot of olive oil in them and a lot of salt, and I grind them up into this fine powder, if you will. And then I put in a little bit of chopped parsley. Chopped parsley adds a little bit of color, a little bit of vibrancy, a little bit of an aroma to it that I like. So we're going to just go ahead and put these on right on over here. And I want to talk about frisee lettuce. Frisee lettuce is the lettuce we're using for this dish today. I have an example here of what you want to look for and not look for when you're shopping for your frisee lettuce. So starting, we can kind of zoom in on these two heads right here. This is frisee, also called curly endive, if you will. If you'll notice, this one right here on the on your left, my right, has a yellowish, large amount of yellow you can see here in the center, whereas this one has hardly any. You want to lean towards the ones with more of that yellow center. The green part you'll find in frisee has a bit of a bitterness to it. What the farmers do when they're growing frisee, in about the last week or two of the growing step, they have a couple techniques in which the way they do what's called blanching. They'll basically put like a little plastic bowl on top of the head of lettuce as it's growing. And what that does is it blocks the sun from hitting the plant, and it actually protects this center part of the frisee. And what that does is it can't develop the chloroform. It doesn't have as much photosynthesis going on, and so you get more of this kind of white-yellow center. And we want that because that's the lettuce, that's the sweet part of the lettuce. You find these outer green leaves can be bitter. So always look for those heads with a large amount of that yellow-white right in the center here. I'm going to show you a quick technique for cutting this frisee to get this ready to go. Basically, what I like to do is kind of press it flat here. I'm going to show you how I'm basically opening it up like so, and then I'm going to press it flat onto the cutting board so that that flesh side is out. And a technique with taking my chef knife, you can take a typical chef knife like this. You can use a small paring knife if you like, whatever you're more comfortable with. But I'm going to do a gentle, kind of almost a shaving motion here on the outside. And what we're doing is some of these big, thick stems that are here, we're removing those big, thick stems, and we're also getting some of those green leaves out of the way. And what you'll notice here is after I do that, a big majority of all that green is now gone, and now I'm down to just a few pieces of the green lettuces left. So we're going to continue through here, right on the outside. We're going to discard. Now, my recommendation, not necessarily discard this in restaurants. This is always classic family meal. This is the lettuce that when you go to a restaurant, the chefs, we're taking this part, and this is what we're serving you. And then this part here, this always gets tossed up, and then staff meal, family meal, they'll eat that. It also makes a good alternative salad, if you will.
It goes home for my chicken.
Goes home for you.
And it makes more eggs.
It makes more eggs. There you go. I like that idea. You know, a salad dressing you could do with those greens, because it's a little bit bitter. I tend to like to lean towards like a sweet vinaigrette. You know, not necessarily balsamic, but maybe, you know, maybe like a honey Dijon or something like that. It's just a simple casual salad for those outer greens. And that sweetness will kind of soften that green bitterness, if you will. So we've got down to the heart here, the heart of the frisee, and we're just going to go in here, and we're just going to cut some pieces off just like so. And that's the amount that you get. So frisee, not a lot of yield. You can see here this big old head, and then your final amount you get is just this tiny little bit right there. So what we're going to do, so ideally you want to wash your lettuce here, put it in some cold water, swirl it around. Now pull the lettuce out of the cold water and then spin it dry. I've done that for us already. We don't have a sink, so I'm just going to put this aside. I have some of that lettuce ready to go. Just dust off my cutting board here. I'm going to dive into, let's see, what's the next step in this dish? The potatoes, I guess. Let's talk about the potatoes. So the salad we have some Yukon Gold potatoes here. We've already boiled them, so they're soft, if you will. I'm going to gently fry these up crispy, make them a little bit of a little golden brown here, all on the outside. It's kind of a funny thing about fried food. I got this fried egg here and this fried potato. A little contrary to what you might think with wine. Classically, you think, oh, you know, fried food is kind of simple food. It's fast food. It's McDonald's.
Everything's better fried.
Thank you.
Everything's better with bacon.
You got it.
It's better with butter.
You got it.
Everything's better with truffles.
You know, that
I got no problem with it.
I've always said you could fry shoe leather, and I probably want to eat it. It's tasty stuff when you fry. You know, there's something about when you're frying food as well. You know, it's the little bit of fat, you know, that extra mouth coating effect that kind of helps when you're drinking red wine, kind of softens the tannins a little bit as well. So I tend to lean to doing some fried stuff, and it makes it a little fun here. So I've taken these Yukon potatoes here. Like I said, they're already boiled, so they're soft. And I'm gently going to do what I call crushing. We're going to do a crushed potato. I'm going to use the heel of my hand and just gently press the potato so that it's now flat, and we got some of the broken skin here on the potato. Again, just pushing down with the heel of my hand.
Get just like Julia Child in a ham and cheese sandwich.
It's classic. Press it down. So let's talk about assembling this dish here. We have our eggs all breaded, ready to go. We have our potatoes crushed. We have our oil hot. We have our mushrooms. Here we go, right behind me here. Through the magic of ToutSuite, we have the mushrooms sauteed, ready to go, right before your eyes.
What kind of wine?
What kind of?
Wine.
In sauteing of the mushrooms, classically a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc I like to deglaze the pan with during the saute step.
No, you got to be drinking.
Oh, drinking with the dish, sorry.
We're with sharp knives here, DJ.
Exactly. We have, well, with this dish, I'm recommending our Toomey Pinot Noir, our Russian River Pinot Noir. I find it's got a beautiful earthiness in this wine. Like you say, Ken, Pinot Noir is beautiful with truffles.
Truffle food.
It really is. You know, there's enough of that structure in the wine to provide some body, if you will, yet it's not going to overwhelm the truffle and make the truffle faint and hide the truffle. So we have the mushrooms here. We've gently warmed them. Now, I've taken my technique for the truffle here is taken the truffle and we've gone and shaved it down a little bit here. And we shaved a little bit off earlier. I'm just going to do another slice for you here, if you will. So we take some slices here, and I've gone and diced these up really fine. Now, Ken and I were talking about the ideal thing with truffles here. You don't want to cook them. When you heat them too much, their natural flavors are going to dissipate. You're not going to notice them that much, and that essence, that what makes them so wonderful, just goes away. And so what I have here is I have a couple that are lightly chopped up here. We're going to put them on a little side dish here, if you will. And then what I'm going to do, these mushrooms are nice and heated up, and I'm simply going to, they're already warm here, so I'm simply going to add the mushrooms, the truffles just to these mushrooms here. And the warmth of the mushrooms are going to heat them through. And just kind of bring out a little bit of the flavor, add a little bit of complexity to these mushrooms, kind of tie the truffle flavor into them. At the last moment as well, I like to put a little bit of chopped parsley in with the mushrooms. I think you'll find what you'll notice is this beautiful vibrancy, and the green comes out in the mushrooms, and a beautiful the parsley aroma is just wonderful. So that's all ready to go, nice and warm. We're going to go ahead and fry up the egg here real quick and the potatoes. So we'll do the potatoes first. We're going to go right through this oil here. Our oil is sitting at 350 degrees. Simply just going to drop these potatoes right in. All right. You can see in the bottom they get a little golden brown. This won't take long. We're going to take a couple of our eggs here. Show the egg. We're going to kind of lightly drop that egg there. Now, I want to talk about some safety with the oil here. Notice the oil. Notice it's only halfway up the sides of the pan here. That's a very important step and technique you want to think about when you're frying, especially at home, because if your oil is too high, you can see a bubble when I add this egg. If your oil level is too high, you can find the oil can bubble up, over, and out of your pan, and then we're in a dangerous situation. Just a little bit longer here. Now, set the potatoes in for about 30 seconds or so. The eggs don't take long, just a little bit of time to get them golden brown on the outside here. They'll crisp up, and then we're going to let them rest for a second. While that's happening, I'm going to kind of clean up, and I'm going to start the plate up of our main dish. Pull that aside. All right, so we have a plate there. We have our bowl. We're going to take our frisee lettuce here, Put a little bit of frisee lettuce into the bowl. Check on these when I'm frying here while I'm doing it. Don't want to overcook anything. Make sure. Beautiful. There we go. A little golden brown. Okay, I'm going to pull these potatoes out here. They're starting to get a little bit of color on the outside and warm through. And while these potatoes are hot, fresh out of the oil, while they still have that oil glaze on the outside, now's the time when you want to season your food that you fried. While that oil glaze is still there, salt hits it, absorbs the salt, and seasons it beautifully. Put that to the side. Check that egg. Don't want to go too long. Remember, if we go too long, then our yolk's going to overcook. So it's beautiful. You see, got a nice golden brown breading to the egg. I'm going to pull that out. There we go. Those are ready, and those can kind of sit and rest just a second while I go ahead and plate the rest of this dish up. So while these potatoes are warm, I'm going to take our cheese. Now, in this recipe, I'm using a truffle cheese known as Truffle Tremor. Comes from the Cypress Grove Cheese Company. They're known for making their Humboldt Fog. It's this beautiful goat cheese with a mold rind. This Truffle Tremor is the same Humboldt Fog. However, they put a little bit of black truffle into the curd. And if you'll notice here, if you can kind of zoom in on that cheese, I'm not sure if you have it, it's creamy up here around the edge and a little bit more drier and like your typical goat cheese, if you will, on the outside. What you'll notice about this cheese as it ages, that creamy part will get thicker and thicker, and you end up having this kind of almost this oozing quality from this cheese. So we got a little truffle characteristic coming out of this cheese here. I'm going to put a little bit onto each potato here. And so what that's going to do is the heat from the potato is going to warm the cheese up just a little bit. Now, you can use many other cheeses with this dish. I find will work great. Manchego is a favorite of mine that I like to use with this dish. In addition to, there's some other truffles cheeses as well. Sottocenere from Venice, I find, is a wonderful addition as well. So, cheese is on there. Cheese is kind of warming up the potato. We have the eggs ready to go. We have the frisee lettuce. Now I'm going to show you a classical way of dressing a salad. I kind of lean away. I lean against making vinaigrettes. I like to use the ingredients real simple and real fresh. I like to start out with just really good quality extra virgin olive oil. I'm using an Arbutina, one of my favorite olive oils, California-based. Beautiful butteriness to this olive oil, just a little bit of that green grassy characteristics that you're looking for. And the idea for the perfect dressing of a salad is to first do your oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and you want to evenly toss the salad up here with just the oil. I haven't added the acid, the vinegar or lemon or anything. So I'm coating the lettuce here with the oil, getting it all over, and now at this point, once we've gone and we've coated that lettuce, now we're going to go in with a little bit of lemon. These are some beautiful Meyer lemons. These were harvested today from our property here at Silver Oak. We grow these lemons on the property. Just going to kind of, using the heel of my hand, give it a light press here, kind of works out the juice in the lemon for us a little bit here. Let's do a simple cut. Pull out the seed here for us. And then just a simple squeeze of the lemon juice on top. So we're going for just the simple flavors of the lemon, the olive oil, the salt, the pepper. We're not letting any other, binders or other ingredients that you typically add to a vinaigrette kind of block our flavors here. So back to my towel and the final steps in this dish. So we have our plate here. The way I like to present this dish, I like to start out with our mushrooms, gently warmed here. Take the mushrooms and put them right in the center for this salad here. Kind of spread them out flat here. You want to see all of them. See a little bit of the yellow foot, a little bit of the hedgehog. You see that black trumpet, mushroom. Spread that out. Now we'll go in with the salad. Place a little bit of the salad right in the center here. Now, technique for plating salad, like in restaurants, you'll kind of take it up and transfer it to my other hand here. Kind of bind it up a little bit, any extra lettuce off my hand. Now this helps you do a nice, tight form on the salad so it doesn't kind of get all over the place. You've kept it there. We can still see the mushroom. You can still see the salad. Got that step done. Now we're going to go in here with the potatoes. Roll potatoes right around, like so. Fun part here. There we go. Now you got to check out this egg. Now we'll take the egg. We'll take my knife here. Now the first few times I did this dish, I wanted the guests to experience the egg and the breaking of it. And I'd put it on top, and then I'd walk to the table. And what would it do? Roll down on the floor, across the dining room. It's like it's a round egg. It just doesn't work. So what we'll do here is we'll take my knife. I'm just going to kind of pierce it in, like so. Kind of zoom inside here. You see that egg yolk that we have. Put a little egg on the side here. The other one right on top. Get that beautiful egg yolk on top. Now you got to get a little bit of sea salt in that egg yolk, right there, right on top of that. And the final, most important component, the truffles. Here we go. Just going to take a truffle like so here. We're going to do it. I'll try it right on that. Well, that worked perfect. Let me do it right on the cutting board here. So raw right on top. So we have the warm truffle with the mushrooms, kind of sauteed up. We have some of the raw truffle on top of that, like so. And the final step, a little bit of chive, a little more color. And here we have the frisee truffle salad. This will be the first course at our lunch for the Truffle Festival.
Oh, that's beautiful.
January 19th.
Look, that looks good enough to eat.
Good enough to eat. I just hope so.
Smells good too.
Hope you guys liked it. Thank you. Thank you. Boom. Now, can I answer anybody's questions? I know I kind of went fast, covered a lot. Beautiful eggs. That I did not, but that's an awesome idea. Ken talks about holding. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. The question was, did I infuse a truffle flavor into the eggs? Which I did not with these eggs particularly. However, that's a great technique that you could do, because when you store truffles and you store them in a container with the eggs, will absorb that flavor through the shell all the way into the center of the egg and make the flavor a little bit deeper.
How long when you're infusing the truffles? How long do you
For truffles to absorb, or for eggs to absorb the truffle flavor, you need about 48 hours. Over 48 hours, it doesn't get any stronger. It takes about 2 days for the pores in the shell to absorb enough truffle flavor to really maximize. You can keep them 4 or 5 days. And I always recommend, when people have a fresh truffle, first thing you do, store it with eggs. Because while you're figuring out what to do, while you're inviting friends over for dinner tomorrow, the eggs are absorbing flavor, and it's free.
Yep.
But it's at $800 a pound wholesale.
You want to get
got to be
everything
smart with your truffles.
Exactly.
And the trick is to use good eggs in a tightly sealed container in your refrigerator with whole, fresh truffles. And the amount of perfume that an egg will absorb is one of the miracles of nature. It's one of the first things that I learned with truffles, going back well over 30 years, but yeah, it's been a while. And
would that take away from the actual truffle itself?
No. The flavor compounds that give truffle its distinctive perfume are very volatile. That's why it's a fool's errand to simmer truffles in something for a long time, because the flavor compounds flash point is well below boiling. It's in the 130s. So they're very, very volatile, which means they evaporate very quickly. And that's also one of the reasons that truffles, fresh truffles, are very perishable. You can keep a fresh truffle for weeks, but after about 10 days, it really starts to lose its flavor. Because it's so volatile, those compounds simply evaporate out. With white truffles in particular, you never cook them. They're always shaved raw on top of something. Black truffles can be cooked under a chicken skin and can be cooked into things, but it's never a good idea to put truffles on and simmer them for a while, because you just cook the flavor.
Kill it. So I'll be serving this dish with our Toomey Pinot Noir, our Russian River.
It's very good, by the way.
Beautiful wine. The mushrooms bring out, there's a beautiful earthy characteristic in the wine. I find the mushroom flavor, aromas, so good with the wine, especially when you have a nice balance of fat from the egg, the umami from the egg. We have the aromas of the truffle. We have the salt, kind of helps balance your palate out. in addition to the fat from that egg and the cheese as well.
The thing about truffles is, it's a very strong flavor, but in some ways it's also pretty vulnerable. It's easily covered by spice, pepper, acid, other stronger flavors. It's really important to find a way, eggs in particular, cheese in particular, potatoes, fat, to find foods that will let the truffle flavor come out and shine, that will let the truffle flavor almost blossom into or bloom into those foods. Keeping it with eggs, layering it into cheese, putting it under chicken skin, chopping it up and stirring it into creme fraiche are all really important things. And the same with a wine. And the reason that Pinot Noir works so well is because it's an elegant food wine. If you have a wine that has lots of oak and big tannins and giant fruit, that might be great with barbecued steak, pepper steak. It's
exactly. Something that's been grilled.
But it's just going to blow the truffle away. And Pinot Noir and Nebbiolo, both in the red wines, tend to have really nice, earthy, mushroomy flavors that allow truffle to come to the party and play too. I mean, it's great to pour 100-point wine, but the 100-point wine obliterates your truffles.
Exactly.
You just
you
spend
don't want
a lot of money,
showing up the
and
other.
then you spend
really.
a lot of money on both of them, and only one of them gets to play. And with white wines, you have to be careful that the wines aren't too acidic. Older Chardonnays, a little bit more mature. The nutty flavors or yeasty flavors in Champagne work particularly well. Yeah, Nebbiolo and Pinot Noir are great choices, and this 2010 is already drinking very, very nicely. That's
beautiful wine.
That's going to be great.
One of my favorites. So you got a fun dish coming up. I got to figure out how are you going to make this eggshell stand up.
Well, it's really easy. It's a great trick. It's something you can do at home. It's sort of a combination cooking school and arts and crafts project. One of my favorite things to do with truffles for a very long time has been to cook them with eggs. And you can cook an omelet. You can do more of a carbonara style pasta where you put the eggs in a bowl with some butter and you warm it up and you cook some noodles and you just toss the noodles with the egg and shave some truffle on it. You can scramble eggs. And what we're going to do today is we're going to lightly scramble some egg and we're going to put it back in the shell. And I'm actually going to attach the egg to the plate with a drop of hot glue because it's just a fun presentation.
I like to sniff glue, and I think the combination of the glue and the truffle should be interesting. So.
Well, hopefully we'll get more high from the truffle than the glue. But the first step here then is going to be to take the egg and top it. There's a number of different devices you can use for this. There's one, it's a device that fits over an egg, almost has little teeth. It's like scissors, and you squeeze it, and it kind of cuts the shell. I have a couple of different ones that are spring-loaded, which make a little crack right around the shell, and it's really kind of cool. So leaving the egg in the carton, because if you put the egg on a hard surface, the force will go right through the egg the same way as when you have a series of marbles on strings and you swing one into the other and it comes off the other side. And for that matter, if you have whole fresh eggs and truffle in a jar because you're trying to get the eggs to smell like truffle, put a couple of paper towels in the bottom to cushion them and be careful moving that jar around because if you set the jar down, the force of setting the jar on the table will transfer from one egg to the next and the next and the next. And you can crack a whole jar of eggs with one good whack. So you have to be, you only do that once.
Exactly. And you learn.
But leave the egg in the carton. The carton is your friend.
So the carton works like as a little cushion.
And I just put that right on there. Oh, yeah, I got lucky.
That's a cool toy. I need to get myself
a little
one of those.
toy. Oh, it's our lucky day, too. We got a double yoker. Look at that. That's a very good sign. This is a beautiful egg, dark brown with little spots on it. This is from a Cuckoo Moran's. And she's one of our new chickens. She just started laying a couple weeks ago, and her eggs are finally big enough to use for this. So I have a hot glue gun. I'm going to put a drop of hot glue in the middle of the plate. and just stand the egg right there.
That's beautiful.
No matter, the egg stays nice and tight. And it's just because it's fun and we can. It's a trick that I learned from a friend of mine in Washington, D.C. about 20 years ago. It's like, I got to do this. It's just really cool. Okay, so we have an egg. We have our, reluctantly move the wine out of the way for just a minute there. Put the pan on sort of a low heat. We want to scramble the egg with a lot of butter. It's actually not really scrambled. It's sort of partway between scrambled and hollandaise. As I mentioned earlier, everything's better with butter and truffle and salt. So a little salt.
Now I'm noticing you're using a stainless steel pan here. I'm used to using a Teflon helm, so I'm excited to see your technique here for doing the egg.
I have one of those fancy ceramic nonstick pans at home that I use for cooking my eggs sunny side up, nice and runny top, because they work so well.
They do.
But for scrambling, this little saute pan, it's a sandwich actually. It's a stainless clad. It's got an aluminum center, and it's a great pan. Gonna slice some truffle.
The aromas from this right now. I can smell it just standing here.
I never get tired of it.
You always know that truffles are in the kitchen, because when you walk in, they can many times, I mean, especially when you open them out of the box, I mean, the whole kitchen will erupt with truffle aroma when we order them in.
This is a very easy dish to cook, but it's a dish that requires your undivided attention. When we do these on the line in a restaurant, whoever is doing this dish, that's all they do, because if you take your eyes off it, it overcooks like that. And it's important to put it on a pretty gentle heat. Honestly, it's a lot easier to do this dish with 3 or 4 eggs in a pan, because 3 or 4 eggs is just bigger, and they cook more slowly, and there's a little more room to judge when it's time to take it off the fire. Because we want this to be pretty gentle. You saw a pretty good amount of butter in there. I think it's enough.
Those Cucamarans have a beautiful yolk to them. The color of those yolks is just wonderful.
Now, this is an egg that, this egg came out of the coop this morning, so might be
Can't get any fresh from that.
No. And, you know, once you get used to backyard eggs, you're just so spoiled.
You can't go back.
I mean, good eggs from the farmer's market that come from a real chicken that's been eating bugs and lots of other things and scraps.
Worth the $6.
Oh, 50 cents a piece is a bargain.
It is.
It's a bargain.
So good.
My little flock can't produce enough during truffle season. We get them from at a ranch. They have really terrific eggs. So butter, salt. So it's sort of halfway between hollandaise sauce and a scrambled egg. We don't want it to be too firm. I like to serve this with toasted brioche. You can spoon it out of the egg and spoon it right onto the toasted brioche. Brioche, of course, has a lot of butter in it, too.
The key is that constant movement.
Yep.
So the egg never has that chance to settle.
It's just beginning to thicken there a little bit. Now, of course, if you like your eggs well done, I suppose you could continue to cook them. But they're just so much sexier when they're still loose and buttery like this. They just got that great flavor.
That velvety texture as well. delicious. Yum.
It's my first truffled egg of the year.
Bravo.
Never get tired of them. All right, and then for the top, let's put a nice slice of truffle right on top. And very simple, that is a truffled egg.
That's
back in
gorgeous.
its shell. Nice. It's really simple. It's just one of the best flavor combinations that there is for truffle.
Bravo.
And something else for you to use your hot glue gun for. So black truffle season is really just getting started. There's really three important culinary truffles. There's a fall truffle, tuber estivum, or also the tuber uncinnatum, which is a black truffle with a light brown, almost milk chocolate color to the inside. All of the truffles actually have this kind of veining pattern to them. A black winter truffle, tuber melanosporum, is very black with white veins here. The tuber uncinnatum and fall or burgundy truffle, which comes in the season late August, September, is black on the outside, but more of a milk chocolatey color on the inside. It's the mildest of the three truffles. It's the least expensive of the three truffles, and it's the most plentiful. They're out of season, been out of season for a couple of weeks now. The white truffle, which is also a fall and early winter truffle, found only in northern Italy and slightly east into the Balkans a little bit, and never cultivated. It's in spite of their efforts, it's much more difficult to inspire the white truffle to grow, so they're all wild and foraged. Those typically start to peak in flavor about mid-October, and they go through Christmas, sometimes into early January. So right now we have that really great time where white and black truffles are both in season. The white truffles are just winding down, and the black truffles usually start to become pretty good around Christmas, and their flavor really takes off in January and February. The last couple of years, we've had great black truffles all the way through February into early March. So you've got the tuber uncinnatum or burgundy truffle first, the white truffle second, and then when you get into winter, you've got the true black winter truffle, which is what's just starting here. And of course, that's the truffle that we will be mainly celebrating at the Truffle Festival in a couple of weeks. The Truffle Festival will be at the Westin on January 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. There's a reception. There's a keynote speech by Coleman Andrews. There's a couple of different winery lunches, one at Silver Oak, one at Behringer. Of course, Dominic is doing the one at Silver Oak. This year, they've added a mushroom foraging excursion on one afternoon.
Oh, that's correct.
They're going to go visit one of the truffle plantations down in Carneros that is now just a couple years away from producing our first wine country truffles.
Oh, excellent.
They'll get to meet a truffle dog and hang out with some truffle scientists. And it's really fascinating to understand the science that has allowed truffle cultivation in the last 10 years in particular to really become viable. It turns out you can grow black truffles lots of different places. They grow black truffles very successfully now in Australia. So during their summer, we get black winter truffles from Australia, and they look and they taste exactly the same. Some truffles are better than others. Each one is different. Depends how ripe they are when they're dug. But there's really no discernible quality difference, even at the expert level, between a farmed truffle and a wild truffle. Truffles grow in a symbiotic relationship with trees, and you can just plant them and go pick them one at a time. They're in the dirt, they're under the tree, and you still need a dog, or you could use a pig, but they virtually always use dogs now. You still need a dog to smell the ground and tell you where to dig so you can find the truffle. So it's not like you plant a row of truffles and you go in 6 weeks later and you pick a row of truffles. Mother Nature still has really a very big role in it. The key is to find a spot, whether it's in England, Spain, Australia, Dakota, North Carolina, or the wine country that is conducive to truffle cultivation. It has the right soil characteristics to begin with, and then use some science to plant the right trees and make sure that you do everything possible to optimize the conditions for the truffle to successfully colonize the roots of the tree. And then ultimately you end up with a tree that might produce truffles for 40, 50, 60 years. So when it does work, it really works big. And so it's going to be very exciting. None of us, we've always had to fly truffles in. In the next couple of years, we could be taking a drive down into Carneros with a dog and come back with a truffle that's right out of the ground.
Sounds great to me.
I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah. So
keep our fingers crossed. Right?
Yeah.
Now I have a question about the summer truffles that are available from Europe. What's your experience with those, Ken?
Summer truffles are one and the same. There's two Latin names for them, but it's actually the same DNA. So tuber estivum, or the tuber uncinnatum, the summer truffle, or the burgundy truffle. It's pretty truffly. We used them once this year when a friend from Italy came over and did a white and black truffle dinner with us, and it was white truffle season, but the black winter truffles weren't in season yet, so he brought burgundy truffles, and he did a really terrific dish with them, but they don't have the power that the black truffles have. And the black truffle and the white truffle are really quite different. The white truffle, Italians tend to think that the white truffle is better than the black truffle. The white truffle is rarer than the black truffle. It's a stronger smell, but it's a more vegetal smell. Yes, it is stronger. I don't know that it's better. I love them both. I love all my children. It is perhaps less versatile, but it has that same primal appeal where you smell it and you just want it. You want to eat it. The black truffle is maybe, it's a little more subtle, but it's a broader, sweeter, more aromatic smell. The white truffle is more vegetal. It's more leaky, garlicky, oniony.
Garlicky, yeah, leaky.
The black truffle has earthier, sweeter spice smells to it, almost a little bit like vanilla. We make ice cream with chopped black truffle in it.
Yeah.
Just the same way we would make vanilla ice cream, and you let the truffle infuse into the custard base before you spin it. And when you eat it, it's a really great opportunity to taste what the truffle flavor is, because it's mostly just truffle flavor there in the ice cream base. And it's not unlike the appeal of really good French vanilla ice cream. There's a little sweetness to the perfume, and when you're really spoiled and you go through kilos of truffles a week, you smell each and every one, and each one is like a great bottle of red burgundy. They can all be good, but every single one is going to be different. And you might have a favorite, but they'll all be good. Some are sweeter, some are earthier.
So do you find the aromas in the truffles come out more when they're cold, when they're gently warmed, or kind of the same in both?
Warmth is your friend. They need to stay cold if you're putting them with eggs, or if you're mixing them into butter, or you're layering them into cheese so they don't spoil. But a little bit of warmth pops the perfume. That's why white truffles or black truffles shaved over pasta that's warm, or shaved over risotto, or shaved onto a pizza that's warm.
The heat from the
heat just pops those aromas right out of them. And at the end of the day, it's the perfume that's more important to a truffle than the flavor. You can eat it, and it does have a great flavor, and a really great truffle has a finish like a bottle of wine. It stays on the palate, and it just goes and goes and goes. But it's the perfume that's even more important. With frozen truffles or canned truffles, the perfume is essentially sacrificed for the sake of preserving the truffle. And you still get flavor, and it's better than nothing. But fresh truffles of the best quality combine both the flavor and the perfume, and that's why they're so magical, and that's why people will pay such crazy amounts of money for them.
Yes,
because it really is a miracle of nature.
One of the things I'm noticing, and the difference between the two truffles, is that the white truffle doesn't have that harder shell on the outside like the black does.
The white truffle has a smooth skin. The black truffles, all of the different species, have more of a warty skin on the outside. And indeed, if you look really closely at the warts with a magnifying glass, each of the species has a little bit different identifying factor. That's one of the ways that you can identify the difference between the cheap Chinese truffles that are a waste of time,
Hmm.
and the real tuber melanosporum European strain that's the large, fragrant black winter truffle. There is a black Chinese truffle.
The Himalayans.
Himalayan truffle.
I've had this
There are
before.
truffles found all over the world. There are many species of truffle. But just because it's truffle doesn't mean it's delicious. I mean, there's many species of mushrooms out in the hills here, most of which won't kill you, and most of which don't taste very good. A couple of them are really great, and that's what you want. And there's really only, to me, and I'm spoiled, but to me, there's really only 3 species of truffles that are worth dealing with. And my 2 favorites, and by a mile, are the white and the black, because they have power to them that nothing else does.
They really do.
And the black Chinese truffles are black, and they are truffles, and they grow underground, and they have, I'd rather eat your potatoes. Your potatoes can have better flavor. They just don't pack the same punch. What they do is they allow people to say that they're using truffles, and you can buy them for $40 a pound.
Yeah, they're not expensive.
And so you can put black truffle in something, and then you can drizzle it with truffle oil, which is all fake. And then you can pretend...
No truffle oil.
Not in my house.
Not in my kitchen.
Then you can pretend that you're doing great things with truffles, but you're really just cheating. And you're cheating yourself, too.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing like the real thing. And to me, truffles are one of those things where it's go big or go home. Eat them once a year.
I like that.
But when you
go
eat
big
them,
or go home.
do plenty and
Yeah.
make it good. So.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to this festival coming up. I'm looking forward to the lunch and having people come out.
Yeah, and we'll be having fresh black truffles on the menu for probably the next 2 months. This will mark our 31st year of doing an all black truffle menu. So Monday the 7th at Latoque, we'll roll out our 31st annual all black truffle menu.
Oh,
with
excellent.
6 courses.
I'll be there.
With black truffles in every single course. And it's one of my favorite things that we do all year. And we've got a couple new things this year. We've got a stuffed chicken wing.
Yeah.
I was in London recently, and we had a sticky chicken wing on hand-rolled ravioli in a 2-star Michelin restaurant. And,
wow.
and I'm eating this delicious chicken wing that's in this sticky, uber-reduced chicken stock sauce with this great macaroni, and thinking, this is the best part of the chicken to put the truffle in.
Exactly.
Because it's all that fat and skin on the wing. It's like, stuff the wing, stupid. So we've
Finger looking good. A whole new meaning,
yeah.
sure.
So I came back fixated on doing a stuffed chicken wing, and we've been working on it for the last 10 days. And indeed, it is the absolute best piece of the chicken to stuff with truffles. So we've got a new dish with a stuffed chicken wing that's going to be kind of fun. And we've got a couple other things we're working on that we're going to roll out. So that's going to be fun. We've got a couple of kilos of...
Sherry has a question?
Mary's got a question, yeah.
I do. I've been cooking dinner and listening to the show, and what you're cooking is way more inspiring than what we're having for dinner. But then when you said truffle oil was fake, I ran around the island and said, we need to ask, what is the truffle oil that we're buying then?
The truffle oil you're buying is fake. It's acknowledged by experts in the truffle business that truffle oil is a fake, but it's very lucrative business. If truffle oil, well, first of all, you can squeeze, 1 million pounds of truffles. They don't contain any oil, so there's no such thing as truffle oil. It's truffle flavored oil. And you can flavor oil with fresh truffles, but it's very subtle, and it doesn't keep. If you use the oil to infuse the truffle flavor into it, you trigger the process of the oil becoming rancid. Once oil's been heated, it has a very short shelf life. So it's not commercially viable. And if your truffle flavor is in oil, or if your truffle flavor is in a tightly sealed jar with eggs, it's still extremely volatile, and it doesn't keep. So you can infuse a modest amount of flavor of truffle into oil. It takes a lot of truffle to do so, but it's not commercially viable because it doesn't keep. So Italian scientists successfully synthesized a number of the compounds that give truffles their flavor in the early 1980s, and that is when truffle oil appeared on the market. If truffle oil was as easy and as natural and good a product as people pretend it is, the Romans would have figured it out because they were good at olive oil and they loved truffles. But truffle oil is a very new thing, and it's brought to us by science. It's not brought to us by... And even though that little jar will talk about truffles, and even though that little jar will have a little tiny scrap of truffle in it, believe me, a little tiny scrap of truffle this big is not going to flavor a half a cup of oil. And so it's a very lucrative business. And if you ask them and you put them on the spot and cross-examine them, well, there's truffle flavoring too, but it's fake.
Okay.
It's very expensive for a little bit of oil as well.
And maybe there's like a mafia connection, something like that.
Let's just say it's very lucrative, and they'd rather I not talk about it, but...
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Excellent. That was fun. I had a lot of fun today.
We did. So come see us for the Truffle Festival. There's lots of fun events. Come visit us in Napa Valley, drink some good wine.
Speaking of wine, where's my glass? I need some wine. Everybody got some wine? Everybody?
We all got wine, and you brought the wine.
We did.
Yeah.
Some Pinot Noir here.
Pouring this by the glass at Bank Cafe and Bar.
Hello. Thank
Cheers.
you. Thanks all of you.
Bon appetit, everybody.
Cheers. Bon appetit.
Good.